and they're recognized as Blackfoot Cherokee.
Yeah, see, my aunt always said that I was Blackfoot.
Uh-huh.
And so when I started researching it afterwards, because my grandmother said, no, we're Cree. she wants to think that was her daughter.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was really something. And she said, no, we're Cree. So I went in and I knew where the family originated from,
Yeah.
Sherbrooke, in Quebec. And then that was the big Cree. But there were some black But I'm going by my grandmother.
Well, you know, here I'm the only Cherokee I know of. I hardly speak any Cherokee at all. And it's almost funny because one of the first true Native American traditional healing ceremonies that I ever attended, these Karisa they took me into a Lakota sweat lodge, a 7-prayer round sweat, and those Lakota like those lodges hot, folks. And I came right out of that and went into a Chippewa eagle calling healing ceremony. And folks, I don't know how you're going to take this, but I saw miracles happen that night. I really did. The problem was that the missionaries, because the people of this country, this continent, were practical, and if it was too hot, they didn't wear a heck of a lot of clothes. And they sang and they danced their prayers. Nobody wanted to know what they knew. There is a book, and I recommend if anybody can find it, I've given every copy I've had away. Written by an ethnologist named Hansen back in the 1930s. She got up there among your people, the Chippewa and the Cree, and wouldn't go away. So the elders finally called a council of elders from across the continent, and I mean people from as far south as Mesoamerica, to come and tell this young woman their stories of the Pale One who gave us our rules of right relationship. He was described as being auburn-haired, olive-complected, gray-green eyes, wore a white robe everywhere he went among the nations. He chose 12 men to walk with him and learn. And we Cherokee said, what is your name in your homeland? He said, my name is Yeshua. We didn't have syllables in our language to pronounce the name Yeshua. He said, call me what you will. So we called him Sisa. He gave us 2 rules of right relationship: that we love and honor our Creator and all creation, and that we love one another. That was it. An old Navajo elder told me one time, said, he gave the white man 10 rules to confuse him. But these elders came and talked to Miss Hansen and told her all their stories of the Pale One. Now the interesting thing is, the people of Mesoamerica down there, he told them, because you follow the way of the jungle, the way of the tiger, your civilization will fall. And it happened. The Spanish totally destroyed them. And despite their best efforts, all us folks up here north of the Rio Grande are still here. But yeah, it makes for some interesting reading.
Yeah, because in the Algonquin, they state that their ancestors came from the west where the sun sets. And that was,
The Lenape, the Delaware people. Yes, and I had a copy of the Red Record, the Wallamallam. I loaned it to somebody that never came home. And folks, last century, some young man in a museum found bark carvings, or bark sheets with pictographs on them. So he dug around till he found somebody that could interpret this part of the pictographs and another one that could interpret this one. And he worked at it for a long time, and then he finally published this book. Well, he had it ready to be published, and he took it to some, I don't know if the Lenape exist as a people anymore, but he knew somebody of that heritage. And he took it to their elders and said, "What do you think of this?" They said, "You did a good job, son." So they published it. Reads like the first 5 books of the Bible, folks. And it's out of print and you can't find it. And I made a mistake of loaning mine to somebody and it never came home. And I'm madder than the dickens about it, but evidently they needed it more than I did.
The religion, it's very close. I met at a time in my life, I met a husband and wife who were from the Indians. They were Aleut from the Aleutian Islands, and what they were taught is a lot of stuff that's, way over into the, even with the, same teachings as what's in the Algonquin teachings.
Yes.
It's like, you gotta be kidding me. This is an Aleutian, the islands off Alaska.
I thought we were a bunch of pagan heathen.
There was no planes, there was no, no roads, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
And how do they have the same thoughts in their culture as these others, and the same with the Cherokees, with the Algonquins?
You said earlier that Spring Frog came to Texas before
Duwally.
Duwally.
Yes, sir. He got here in 1782 and he was given the land grant in 1789.
Okay. Did he stay here or did he go back?
Well, yes, sir.
Okay.
They didn't want to go back to the east. There's too many white men moving in.
Well, the Bow went first to Missouri. He was up there in the Boot Hill of Missouri until that big earthquake where the Mississippi flowed backwards. But Sequoyah had been taking people over to a place on the Brazos long before that. He had already taken 3 or 4 or 5 groups. There were probably 1,000 people.
Well, my son found out that Sequoyah was my great uncle by marriage. And when he decided to go find the people who had left, he traveled in secret from, I believe it was Creek Path, Alabama. And he traveled across into Oklahoma and stayed a couple of weeks with Arch Campbell, resting up and provisioning himself because he was already an ill man. And they took 4 or 5 people with him and traveled south down the Cherokee Trace. So he came right through here and ended up down in Mexico with those Cherokee that had traveled long before him. They were an offshoot of the old settlers up there in Arkansas and Oklahoma. And he died down there. But I grew up knowing none of this. The family never talked about it. I grew up a quarter of a mile from Wingate Truitt's cabin, and I didn't know my great-great-great-grandpa built that cabin. So
what are the specs on that book by Hansen? What is the title? And
He Walked the Americas. That is the title.
And how do you spell Hansen?
Hassen. And I'm never going, if I can ever get my hands on another copy, I ain't never loaning it out again. I'll stand over them with that tomahawk in my hand.
And the other book was what? The red?
The other one is called the Walam Olam, and I'm not sure how to spell it. The Red Record of the Lenape, Lenneneape. And now they are called the Delaware people. They've traveled across Asia, across the Bering Straits, into North America. They went across Canada, and some of them turned south and went down into southwestern United States. And it talks about they're meeting people already here. And it seems like every time they find a new body and carbon date it, they get pushing that further and further and further back.
Well, you know, when the Battle of the Natchez took place.
Yes, sir.
They stopped at a Delaware village. And that's where the battle took place. So Delaware were here.
Oh, yes, sir.
Even before them.
Well, they were the descendants of the Lenape people. And that's probably where the language similarities come from.
Yeah, because in the cultures, they're so similar. I mean, there is changes, but it's
Okay,
I mean, it's just, it can't be a coincidence.
you get 7 clans up there with the, the Haudenosaunee. You get 7 clans with the Cherokee. You got 7 clans with the Carrizo-Comocrudo. They even build their summer huts the same way. You know? Yeah, we went around and fought all the time.
Because the tribes, they all were traveling to follow the food.
Yeah.
That's what it was all. I mean, that Appalachian Trail, I've been on many parts of that Appalachian Trail. I mean, that comes all the way down to the south, you know, because the winters are too tough up there. So I think some people just said, hey, I'm not going back.
I took a wrong turn one day coming back from Houston, and I ended up in Jacksonville, and I met one of DeWally's great-grandsons. So they're still here, despite Texas' efforts. She started to say something, sir?
This is kind of off the subject, but when is the dedication of the Truett Cabin?
That's going to be June the 14th.
Okay, when you're here the next time, we'll have some of your relatives here, some of the Richies from Truett.
Bring them on. I've got 6,000 cousins I've never met.
That's Paula Thomas, and there's several descendants of the Richies here. They settled up in Pine Forest north of Pickford.
We're doing this grave dedication and the military honors and the salute in conjunction with the Truett family reunion, because I want all the family that can be there.
Well, you know, you'd be directly related to Captain Henry Stout also. Henry Stout, because the Richies married into that.
I don't know this man.
Family, and then Sealand Stout, who guarded Santa Ana after the Battle of San Jacinto.
Really?
It was his son, and he married a Richie, and they lived in Pine Forest, so that'd be some of your relations.
Wow. It's nutty. A friend of mine named Jim Bell, I went to high school with him, and I didn't have a lot of friends. Nobody will ever believe this, but I was so shy when I was a kid that people had known me for 6 months before they found out I could talk. I was a loner. I was always out running the woods. But Jim Bell was a friend of mine. And we went to high school together, and if one of us got sent to the principal's office, the other one just get up and follow me, because we knew we were going to be implicated sooner or later. But he's going to be coming up and reporting on this thing with the Truett family, because it's Texas history. John Wingate Truett has a little bronze plaque in front of his tombstone, and I'm over there scrubbing tombstones right now. You know how much moss can accumulate from 1839 to now? And it says, citizen of the Republic of Texas. I didn't know that I had a grandpa that was one of them Texas rebels. And I'm sitting there looking at that, and the dates on all these family tombstones, and I must be related to everybody in Marsh County, white and black, and Cherokee. That's the entire history of the Republic of Texas in just my family, and I never knew it. I grew up a quarter of a mile from the cemetery and the cabin, and no one ever shared this with me. And I don't want my grandchildren to be left in this kind of a, situation. I want them to know who they are. They stand on a firm foundation. Of course, I was the black sheep in the family. Anybody here old enough to remember a bunch called the Deacons that used to be over in Morris County, Texas, rode these big old long motorcycles and guilty. When I got back from Vietnam, I was mad at the whole damn world, didn't care who knew it. But by the grace of God and the love of a good moment, I'm still here. And I'm having the time of my life.
Where did you start your journey, or when? How long have you been at it?
Gosh,
Where did you start it?
when that preacher made that statement, that must have been about 32 years ago.
How did
And,
you know where to start?
sir,
How did you know where to start?
when I brought my wife back to meet the family before we got married, I should have known better. Because when I asked her to marry me, her horse bit me on the butt. At any rate, when I brought her back here, my grandmother showed her this book that had tribal rolls in it. And she points out my great-great-great-grandfather, John Hass, and a tribal roll number. That's Leon's, they call me by my middle name, that's Leon's great-great-great-grandfather. But she never told me. But she's the one that left the hand-penciled records in the old family Bible that when one of us got hungry, we found it. And that answers a whole lot of questions about this hard-headed family of mine. So, you never know where it's going to come from. All you got to do is just, any journey takes one step to start. And I'm, like I said,
There you go.
the more I learn, the dumber I get, the older I get, the more. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up's optional. And I'm the biggest kid on the block, and I'm going to stay that way.
Hey, what do you know about Quanah Parker and the Comanche?
I know I have a cousin who is a descendant of Quanah Parker, and she has the Comanche hair trigger and the Cherokee tenacity. So I try not to make her mad.
Where's she from? Where's she at?
In Gilmer.
Gilmer?
Yeah.
All right. I've been down Gilmer.
You know the Coxes that are descended from Quanah Parker?
No.
Her daddy was a Cox.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting what we were doing. You know, I don't really get into history of life. And we was in Eugene, Oregon, and Linda painted a portrait of Quanah. And this little fellow walked up and he said, "That's a pretty good likeness of my great-grandfather." You know, he said, "Will you come and see my dad? You know, because he'd like to see that too." His name was Clifford Clark. And he gave us the whole lineage of Quanah Parker. He had 7 wives, and he had a whole bunch of kids. And all these names that goes down, so we got the lineage of Quanah Parker. That time clear on down to, let's see, it would have been, Clifford he's got to be dead now because he's 92 then.
I can't remember which daughter, but one of Quanah Parker's daughters married a guy named Cox.
Cox is in there.
Yeah.
Cox is in there.
Well, Uncle Gene Cox.
Ananda was one of them.
Yeah. Uncle Gene Cox and my Aunt Martha Sue Hass, my daddy's youngest sister. And she looked like an Indian. They were a fascinating pair. He was a Dangerfield policeman, a Comanche policeman. She was a deputy sheriff.
Otter, we've been asked if we can get copies of this stuff out here, if you can see.
Yes, sir. You can have copies of anything I've got, and I'll bring more.
Okay.
Because
Is this spring frog?
that is spring frog. Tuanta. But he just disappears from Texas history. It's like they don't want him to be here.
See, my great-great-great-great-grandparents founded Longview. Longview was first called Arkville. His wife was Cherokee.
Longview is the northern border. Where'd that map go? They got it. Okay.
See, there's a historical marker down on Highway 80.
Look, here's Longview. There's the northern border. There's the Sabine River. That's the land grant right there.
Well, they married Mitchell Sanders, married Susanna Springfrog. And their daughter, however it came down, she was born in Owasso, Tennessee. And they found the Longview, first called Arkville. There's a historical marker at Johnny Casey's restaurant for Arkville. Longview was first started there.
What was the year?
Well, we don't know. They were here before 1835. They got a Spanish land from here. And when the railroad came through,
You hear what's happening here?
Yeah.
when the railroad came through, he was the postmaster. They ran the general store and they started the Methodist church. And they sold land to the railroad and went on top of the hill and said, "This is a long view." And everything that was Arkville, they picked it up and moved it up on the hill, and that's now it's called Longview. But there, if you go there, there's a historical mark about a mile this side of Johnny Casey's restaurant for Arkville. And they tell that. And they had a daughter, which we thought was going to be my great that they gave her the name of Mitchell. That was her mother's. I don't know how far back, but they were trying to keep that name. Mitchell.
Yeah.
She was Mitchell Arkville. And she married Jesse Martin Black. And they, all my daddy's people, came from Bryce. And,
Well, this is a better map, and I made this one because this is where I'm located right now. And right there is where the French found that Cherokee village.
French Fork is west of
No, I did not know
Bill Jones.
Somebody up there in Jefferson one day walked up and he said, "Is that real?" I said, "Yeah, it's real." He said, "That's too pretty to be real." And one of the guys with me said, "Let him shoot you with it." And, oh yeah, I'm having the time of my life. That's a traditional Taos style drum. Sir? Sir, I'm going to ask you, would you please put that? Thank you. That makes me nervous. That's, wow. Yeah, this is made the old way. I got some buffalo rawhide and I can teach you how to make one. You know, that's what I do to people. I teach them how to do it rather than do it for them. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know.
A cottonwood brush, bleach and water and elbow grease. Don't spray it on the ground.
No, but I've got some stuff that I've been using. Put it on, when it rains. Put it on, when it rains, it takes it off.
What is it?
Well, if you'll give me your stuff, I'll send you it back. I can't tell you. I need your information. It's wonderful.
The way this one came to us, I couldn't believe it. My daddy, in the late 60s, was out in El Paso, Texas, and he had a friend named Herb Sherwood that wanted to start a gun manufacturing company. You ain't gonna believe this. This is just the weirdest story I ever heard. And Daddy was a gunsmith. When he passed away, he was building a 458 American. What the heck can you hunt with in America with a 458 American? 18-wheelers, trains, 740.
Pretty big.
So anyway, he helped her get this gun company going. This is the 40th gun made by Replica Arms, El Paso, Texas. And if you look at the serial number, there's an A in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
It stands for Archie. That company is now Connecticut Valley Arms. Largest manufacturer of black powder firearms on the planet.
I know, that's where I'm from. So
Well, that was the 40th gun made by the great-grandpa of the... And I would not take part. You notice we haven't fired it. We're not going to. But my son loves to carry his grandpa's gun.
But a few of the ones, and I think you're right, I think it's 3,000 that are only, they're this is beautiful.
Thank you.
That is very well done. I've been in the Colts when they do their, all their engraving.
Yeah.
And the first time I was in there, we were on the second floor walking down. And
that's hand carved antler.
Did you make this flute, sir?
No, sir. A man named Ravenhorse made that one for me when I first started playing the flutes.
Well, I have a son-in-law that had one real close to it. It was made in Weatherford, Texas. I don't know about whom.
Well, it's a very traditional design.
Yes.
But the markings on that one, as far as I know.
I copied his and made one.
Yeah.
I mean, we should pick up a collection if we hadn't done it.
But it's amazing. Collectors fascinate me. You know, I'm amazed at what people will collect. And this guy wanted to buy my flute just so he could hang it on his wall in his den. And he got up to $5,000, and I finally one day said, look, man, this was made for me. And I don't care if you're standing there with $1 million, you're not going to kill the voice in this instrument, this flute. This is mine. And he couldn't understand that.
Yeah, I made one for a nephew of mine, and he hung it on the wall.
I found one that was split right down the middle at a powwow one time. And it's sitting on the table. And every time I kept walking by, that thing just called to me. And I just couldn't stand it. I went over and the lady, I asked her how much she wanted for it. And she said, well, it's split. I said, I know, I'm just asking how much you want for it. She says, well, it can't play it. I'll take $20. I said, you're on. And I took it home and gave it some tender, loving care. My wife thought I was crazy because here I am sitting there, I built a cone, and I could stick it in of it, and I had a hair dryer blowing warm air up in there so it sucked the glue down into the split.
Yeah.
And then I clamped it. And I left it set for about 5 days, and went and took the clamps off. Then I took some steel wools, gently started rubbing, and I had to resurface the bird. And it has the sweetest voice. And my sister-in-law took it away from me.
Have you gotten acquainted with this guy called the Pink Cave, or he made a movie on it? He's out of Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Never heard of it, sir.
George, you took a bunch of notes.
Let's see, 7972043. I never call myself.
It's a pipe, but it's
Made out of stone.
My sister lives in Pittsburgh. I'll try to bring you some of